This is Ezra Gallo, a.k.a. Easy Rooster. I'm calling about Brainscan and From Dusk Till Dawn. I think From Dusk Till Dawn is probably a better movie. It's filled with great one-liners and some pretty good action and horror moments. And also, I don't know if you've ever heard of Salma Hayek, but I like Brainscan more. It speaks to teenage me in a way that not a lot of horror movies could. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm going to definitely have to go back and watch it before I listen to the podcast. Thank you.
On this episode of Action Film Face Off.
Before I wish for your annihilation, any last words?
Well, at first I was trying to figure out what he had in his mouth.
My name is Dacre Stoker. I'm the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, who's the author of Dracula. I'm the author of Dracul, along with J.D. Barker. You're listening to Horror Film Face Off.
The Longbox Crusade presents an Action Film Face-Off Holiday Special. Horror Film Face-Off. And this episode, it's 1994 versus 1996.
Two scary films enter.
One scary film leaves.
Two men enter, one man leaves. Two men enter, one man leaves. Two men enter, one man
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits.
Welcome, everybody, to Action Film Face Off, or should I say Horror Film Face Off. And guess what? It's like a double bonus. This is our 50th episode. So Jason and I have watched 100 movies for you people and your entertainment. I hope you appreciate it. Anyways, this show is the one where two random years are selected. My brother brings an action film, or in this case, a horror film, from one random year, and I do the same for the other random year. Then those two films do battle using a variety of criteria that's usually out of order, and a champion will be crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Albrecht, the deathest of probes during this Halloween season.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
My co-host is my brother, Jason, the weaselest of skulls during this Halloween season. We are both military combat vets who take our action seriously, but not too seriously. So let's have some fun. Let's get into Horror Film Face Off. It's the most magical time of the year for our podcast, Jason.
That it is. And we are going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. What are those categories, you ask? You shouldn't have to ask anymore. You should know. We've just done 100 films. Come on. But okay, since you're asking, it's story. It's overall spectacle. It's the best action scene, or maybe best horror scene in this case. It's the hero and the villain. And it's still not in that order, not even for Halloween. But we will still have that deduction round where up to 10 points can be subtracted from the film's total for whatever we determine is the low point of the movie.
Thank you, Jason. And man, this is such an important 50th episode, and it's the annual Horror Film Face-Off that Jason's having some serious internet problems, but we found a way around it. We've dialed directly into his phone. So if his audio sounds a little different, it's just because he's using his phone because he did not want to miss this event.
Just pretend like it's 1994.
He's building the ambiance for these two 90s movies. Actually sound pretty good. And you know what? We're not alone. We have got a sniper, of course. We've got a sniper. And you may remember the sniper has 1 point to give in just each category. So the sniper can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points. And we want to meet our sniper for this episode. Now, last year for Halloween or Horror Film Face-Off, we had Aaron Moss as our sniper. We weren't too pleased with him. So this year we've decided to replace him with, hang on, let me check the notes. All right, Aaron Moss is back again. Welcome back, Aaron Moss.
Oh, you need to get a refund. That's horrible. Though I am prepared. I did read G.I. Joe number 32.
Oh,
I'm ready to talk.
good. I think this was a typo, like a formatting typo from Laurel that brought you back. But you know what? That's fine. Last year,
I heard that Edward Furlow canceled on you. That's why.
Yeah, Edward Furlong did cancel on us. So last year, you told us your 3 favorite horror movies. And this year, I was wondering if you would just, and they might line up, tell me who your 3 favorite sort of horror characters are. You know, you like Jason, do you like Freddy, do you like Leatherface, do you like Norman Bates? Like, who's your sort of icons? Who are your favorite icons?
I'm not allowed to watch horror movies. My mom says they're too scary for me.
This is going to be an interesting episode.
I didn't watch either movie. I'm just going to guess. No. To start off with, I'm going to have to say Freddy Krueger's got to be in the top spot. I mean, Freddy Krueger's, he's a modern classic. I say modern. For me, 1980s is still modern.
It's me too.
And then moving on from there, I'm going to pick a real classic. I'm going to probably go with, I think today I'm going to say Frankenstein's Monster. It's a classic. It's just, it's just a great story. And I mean, the Incredible Hulk is kind of based on that. And, amongst other things, along with the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But no, I like Frankenstein's Monster. And I kind of feel a familiarity with him. I'm a misunderstood monster, and people misunderstand, when I'm destroying things. And my third choice, since it is coming up on Halloween, I'm going to say Michael Myers.
Can't go
Tough
wrong.
choice. Like I say, depends on the day you ask me. It may change, but that's who it is today.
All right. You know what? Since you mentioned Halloween, just a brief aside, make this longer for me to edit. I was watching a thing the other day about the original Halloween, and in that movie, the kids are watching a horror movie marathon at night when the little girl from across the street comes over, and they end up watching The Thing from Another World and Forbidden Planet, which I had to text Jason as soon as I realized that, because I was like, those were our 2 films that were on Retro Rewind last year. And I was like, what are the odds that the 2 films those kids were watching at Halloween were the 2 films we had on Action Film Face Off Retro Rewind? I thought it was a weird coincidence. But anyway, that's a quick little Halloween story for you here.
He texted me like at 2 a.m. on that. And I was like, oh, it must be an emergency. And I was like, but I got to admit, I was like, that is kind of weird.
That is a weird coincidence.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. And before our 2 films enter the Videodome Arena, which I'm quite certain is haunted at this time of the year, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout-outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined our crusade. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes and so much more. These are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Angelica, Werewolf in London. How?
All burned out.
Blast it or stash it or slash it.
Braxton, Undertaker Wood.
Creepy Clinton Roberson.
Captain Entrails of P.
Devilish Dave Coleman.
Gary V. And the V stands for Vampire.
Evil Eye Ezra Gallo.
Gerald Gangrene.
Jason Voorhees King.
Jeremy L. And the L stands for Lunatic.
Jim Headed Jarman.
Jinx Joe Thomas.
Jigsaw John Watson.
Josh Strickland, Principal of Pain.
Candace Mental Ward.
Candy Corn Kathy Bright.
Mark of the Beast Ross.
Murderous Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W. And the W stands for Witchcraft.
PD Devins. And the PD stands for Probably Deranged.
Paul Bearer Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Presents Jeff's Dead Body.
Rotting Rob Morgan.
Diane Ryan Daly.
Sinister Samantha Maney.
Shivering Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 6 feet under 7.
Spreadsheet from Beyond the Grave. It's the best thing I could do with spreadsheet.
Stephen King Cronin.
Tim Vincent Price.
Tony the Pit in the Pennington.
Toronto Wolf Cop.
Awesome. Now, if we missed you on our list, we apologize. Keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release. Your recent edition will add you soon, but no worries. Just let us know we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We'll get it straightened out. If you're asking yourself now, how do I get in on this whole Crusaders Club membership thing? It's very simple. Go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as $1 a month. You'll get access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. We're talking extra videos, extra audio, voting and show content is some of the people's favorites. Pat sends out little lists of things that we're doing this week, so you kind of get the behind the scenes of what we're up to. It's pretty cool, and it starts at just $1 a month. And oh, by the way, you get put in for some raffle prize entries. It's good stuff. Anyway, back to Jason.
Thinking you could say spreadsheet over dead body.
That makes sense.
Or spreadsheet over yourself and become a ghost.
Yeah, I was trying to do the ghost sheet thing. Yeah.
See, why isn't Jason writing these things?
I should have got the guy who wrote the action scenes to write these. And for those of you tuning in, yes, these are probably the same ones from last year because I pulled up the script and I was like, hey, these are pretty good.
They are good.
I'll work on the spreadsheet one.
All right. Enough antics. Let's get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film writers about to battle for your pleasure.
This episode, I was inside the year of 1994, and I have selected Brainscan. What year did the randomizer select for you?
I got 1996, so I'm putting into our Videodome arena From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh my, we have a fine matchup for this one, folks. Now, it's important to point out that this isn't Jared versus Jason. We each had to select from our assigned year. I might very well like his selection better than mine, or vice versa. This is just about us discussing some beloved horror films and coming to a consensus on which one is this episode's champion. All right, quick around the room. How do we watch it? For me, Brainscan, From Dusk Till Dawn. Of course, I have both of those on my Plex servers. That's how I watched them. Aaron.
I haven't seen it. No,
I hope to one day see them.
Truth comes out.
Okay, honestly, I didn't rewatch From Dusk Till Dawn because I haven't find it anywhere. But you know what? I have seen that movie so many times. I want to watch it again, but I don't need to watch it for this. I've seen that on probably HBO 100 times in a year.
A lot of dust and a lot of dogs.
Yes, it is. As far as Brainscan, I watched it on Tubi, I think it was.
Nice.
I first watched it when it first came out back on, I think it was probably HBO back in the day. I don't see it much. I don't watch it very often, but it's one of those when I say, oh, that was an interesting film. I'll have to watch that again. So I did. I think it was on Tubi. I watched it this time. So
okay, cool. Jason.
I watched Brainscan on Tubi as well, and then I ended up just forking over $3.99, I think, to rent it off of Apple.
Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, I rented that one.
Okay, cool. Well, there you have it, folks. Now here's your spoiler warning. Clearly, we're going to spoil the heck out of Brainscan and From Dusk Till Dawn. And you know what? Both of them have pretty key plot change elements. One movie, it comes later. One movie, it comes earlier. But spoilers are going to happen. So go ahead and pause it here if you want to go watch those movies. We're going to give you a little musical interlude, and we will join you on the other side. When we get to the other side, can't blame us for spoilers.
Bring it back. I'm going to go watch it. Sorry.
I think you used that joke last year. All right, welcome back. Let me jump in with some quick info on 1994's Brainscan.
Now that I have your attention, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Trickster.
What was that film you were watching?
Death.
Death.
Part 2.
Oh, Lord.
Michael's seen it.
Go for it, man.
Done it. Played it.
Look, I've played them all.
And just when he thought he'd die of boredom.
Brainscan, the ultimate experience in interactive terror.
Never leave home without it.
You're in the game, man. You're in control.
You must think like a killer. Cover up any clues. Leave no witnesses, no evidence.
A challenge he can't resist.
It was so real. It was sick.
See, I told you, man. I told you it would blow your mind.
A game he can't escape.
There was a grisly murder in the quiet suburban town of Mountview today.
So you did it.
What was on that disc?
It's not a game anymore.
Hamilton and Hayden.
It's real.
It wasn't supposed to be real.
Real, unreal, what's the difference?
I didn't kill the man. I didn't even know him.
You're in this now. You won't survive on your own. You started this and now you're afraid to finish it just like you're afraid of everything else.
I won't kill her! Shoot her!
Wait. The witness has to die.
Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and introducing T. Ryder Smith as the Trickster. Brainscan.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Cast and crew is as follows. Starred Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and T. Ryder Smith. Is directed by John Flynn. Synopsis goes a little something like this. Michael is a kid who likes horror movies, video games, badass computer setups, and not fitting in well at school. He attempts to escape his everyday reality of becoming unpopular by playing a new, hypnotic, cutting-edge PC game called Brainscan. And that's where the lines between video games and reality start to blur. Is Michael really good at killing in the video game world, or is he actually killing in the real world? Here's some trivia on it. Item number 1. Director John Flynn did not get along with Edward Furlong during filming. He later recalled, Eddie Furlong was a 15-year-old kid who couldn't act. You had to slap him awake every morning. I don't want to get into knocking people, but I was not a big Eddie Furlong fan. For someone who doesn't want to get into knocking people, he knocked him pretty hard there.
I mean, he's a 15-year-old kid. Of course you're going to have to slap him awake in the morning. Who amongst us hasn't had a 15-year-old kid in their lives you had to slap awake in the morning?
I've got a 14-year-old daughter I've got to slap awake every morning. So.
I have a 16-year-old son. Slap awake. Item number 2. T. Ryder Smith, who played Trickster, admitted he was the uncredited voice of Igor, Michael's automated phone program on his computer. The voiceover was recorded with Smith doing 3 different impersonations, and the filmmakers eventually used his impersonation of Boris Karloff. And your third and final bit of trivia. This film was a critical and a financial failure. But you know what, folks? I love it anyway. It was withdrawn from cinemas after being shown for only 2 weeks. And what's fascinating about that to me is the first time I saw this movie, I saw it on the big screen with my buddy Jose when I was in high school. So clearly we made that 2-week window. And you know what? I really enjoyed it, but we'll talk more about that later. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Jason.
Thank you, Jared. Now I will give folks the rundown on From Dusk Till Dawn.
Everybody be cool. You be cool. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Low profile. You understand the meaning of the words low profile?
Sure. 2 of America's most dangerous criminals have taken hostages.
What is this? It's called a punch. I'm going to ask you one question, and all I want is a yes or no answer. Do you want to live through this?
Yes.
Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
One night is all that stands between them and freedom.
This is my kind of place.
But it's going to be one hell of a night.
We might be in trouble. There are a bunch of vampires out there trying to get in here and suck our blood.
Now, their only chance is to fight back.
Oh, yeah!
Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Juliette Lewis.
Welcome to slavery.
No thanks. I already had a wife.
From dusk till dawn.
Cast and crew included George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, and Harvey Keitel. It was directed by Robert Rodriguez. Goes a little something like this. Seth Gecko is having a tough day. After his bank heist went bad, leaving a bunch of civilians and Texas Rangers dead, he and his brother Richie are hauling ass through South Texas with the law hot on their heels. Worse still, Richie is a psychopath whose indiscriminate killings are making their chances for survival close to nil. A desperate Seth and Richie kidnap Jacob, a pastor who has lost his faith, and his family to use their RV to smuggle them to Mexico. The desperate plan actually works, and the motley crew are seeking food and booze at a local biker bar when literally all hell breaks loose as the bar staff turn out to be vampires. Now Seth and his unlikely allies have to band together to last through the night. And my trivia nuggets are as follows. Bullet point number 1. The movie is intended to be an homage to the midnight drive-ins of yesteryear, and that's what inspired the title. when they saw several drive-in movie signs would say open from dusk till dawn. Bullet number 2. Scott Fuller's Precinct 13 shirt was a nod of respect from Tarantino, who is a John Carpenter fan and loved Assault on Precinct 13.
Formerly featured on Action Film Face Off.
Well, thank you. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. And bullet point number 3, Selma Hayek is afraid of snakes, and she tried to ditch her serpentine partner several times during the production of the film. Robert Rodriguez lied to her and said that Madonna had expressed interest in the part and would dance with the snake if she didn't want to. So Selma took psychological classes to get past her phobia and danced with that snake.
I'm going to pass on a lot of Selma Hayek snake.
I was thinking the same thing.
Let's move on. All right, go ahead, move on.
I wasn't going to pass on them, but getting the looks from the two of you, I think I probably should. So now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
Ladies and gentlemen, test your might. Let's get ready to rumble! It's a street fight, street fight.
All right. It's time to get hot in here. First things first, let's talk about match game. We got 2 films, 5 categories, which means there are up to 10 possible matches between Jason and I. I have not seen his scores. He has not seen my scores. So place your bets now. How many times do you think we are going to match out of 10? And speaking of scores, a reminder of the barometer. If we give it a 5, that means it's fine. It's average. It's something you'd see on a halfway decent made for TV movie. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got a really good movie going there. 4, 3, 2, 1. You've got some work to do. That's, Alan Quartermain in the Kingdom of the Skulls or whatever it was called.
It happened one time, Jared. One time.
But you know what? We still had a blast doing it. So that's all that matters. And with that, let's get into round 1.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Round 1 is the story. How engaging or original is the story? We will start with Brainscan in 1994. And Aaron Moss, your thoughts on the story.
Which one? No, I'm just... It's one of those days for me.
This is why we don't. I had you as not to return.
Yeah, I
paperwork messed up and got you back.
I that's why I don't return to my own show sometimes. No, I thought the story on this was, again, I saw it when it first came out, like on HBO decades ago. I may have seen it once or twice since then. So when I was rewatching it, I couldn't remember all the plot points and all the twists and turns. So no, I thought it was a very good story. The very ending especially left you wondering what was going on. It reminds me a little bit of Nightmare on Elm Street, the way it ends. It's like, what was it, a dream? Did this happen? It leaves you puzzling and wondering what was actually how much of it was real, how much of it wasn't. So no, it's a great story, and yeah, had a lot of twists and turns, I thought. And yeah, it left you guessing all the way to the end. Is it real? Is it a dream? Is it a video game? What's going on in the story?
Yeah, they do a good job of that. And then with that little mid-credit break where they show the dog running around with the foot again, you're like, okay, now, I always took that, by the way, because I had another friend who watched the movie recently, and they were like, I don't understand, was it real or a dream? Because that dog was at the end of the mid-credits. I said, well, first of all, that's how, like you said, Nightmare on Elm Street, that's how all horror films of that era kind of ended with that. Let's put a question mark on it. I always took it to mean that, like, if you remember at the very end, the principal was about to play the game. Mm-hmm. I always took it to mean that was like part of the principal's playthrough. Now, like, we're watching his playthrough of the game. But that's just a possible take. Jason, you can run with that or continue your thoughts on the story of 1994's Brainscan.
Well, Jared, when you nominated Brainscan as your film, I did my due diligence and looked it up to see what I was getting into and saw that it had a whopping 1 star as far as that film was concerned. You know what else had 1 star, Jared?
Temple of Skulls.
Temple of Skulls had 1 star. So I thought we were into 1 star territory. However, we were not. I thought the story was rather interesting. I think my criticism of it was that it was kind of floating between trying to be a thriller and trying to be a spectacle, Freddy Krueger-ish type of film. That's kind of what I felt like. And it never quite firmly landed in either camp, but it did pretty well in both, I thought, if that makes sense. So I thought it definitely deserved more than 1 star. I think probably the thing that I found best about it, since I panned it a little bit coming out of the gate, I thought that Eddie Furlong's character was well established, but in a way without having a lot of exposition. The opening where you see him at the car accident and coming upon his dead mother is tragic. It explains his limp. His dad isn't there, but there's one phone call that his dad makes to him, and you could tell the pain in his dad's voice. He loves his son, but he's struggling with this and is running away from the death of his wife. And so all of this kind of sets the mood and really explains how Eddie Furlong's character can take this journey that he's on. So I thought that was really well established and really well done.
I agree. Yeah, when I pulled it up on my Plex, it shows like the Rotten Tomato score. I think this one had like an 8%. And I was like, what? But the most common complaint is what you talked about, Jason, is like they kind of, I guess, want consistency. It's got 1 foot in slasher genre. It's got 1 foot in thriller genre. To me, I think that's part of the charm, is that it's its own thing, but I guess people want you to be all that stuff. But hey,
I agree with you, Jared. I like the fact that it dabbles in both.
I appreciate that. I just realized the pun I did. It has 1 foot in. Anyway, let's move on. From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996, back to Aaron. Your thoughts on the story?
It's Quentin Tarantino. I mean, do I need to say anything else? The dialogue in is very Quentin Tarantino. Very, I still love, and I still use that the one part where he's said they're going to Mexico. What's in Mexico? Mexicans. I've used that myself, so I love that line. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's really a surprise that they're fighting vampires, because I mean, if you've seen the previews, so I mean, but it took a very odd turn, I guess, when they got down to Mexico and they're at this biker bar, and all of a sudden, they're fighting all of these vampires. You got Selma Hayek. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. What was I talking
What?
Fighting her snake and never mind.
Yeah.
But they got these other bikers and guys, joining in fighting. You got the forget his name now, the makeup artist that's in there.
Tom Savini.
Tom Savini with his little gun that pops out, and it's just a great. Yeah, I just love the action in this, and it doesn't have a real big story per se. You can sum it up, you get these bank robbers, psychopaths, whatever, kidnapping this family, going down to Mexico, and they fight vampires. But it's fantastic. I love the twists and turns, and the special effects and all that comes later, I guess. But story wise, yeah, it's just, and I love the ending of it. The spoilers again. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Listen to the show for? Go listen, but or go watch it. But yeah, they survive, and yeah, I love the ending of it when he wants to leave the I forget that character's name now, the little girl, and he's like, I may be a bastard, but I'm not a bastard.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's a fun romp and action packed all the way through. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. Interesting how people complain about Brainscan having 1 foot in 2 universes. And this movie From Dusk Till Dawn has 1 foot in 2 universes. It's a heist movie and it's a vampire action movie.
I love that.
I do too. I do too. It's part of the charm. Jason.
Well, you nailed it. It is two worlds colliding here. It starts off as a heist movie and it ends as a vampire brawl for it all, which is really pretty cool. It's just kind of one slick sequence after another. It's really good action sequences with really snappy, witty, Tarantino-esque dialogue throughout. What really brings it together to me is Jacob and his family and being caught in the middle of this. I saw it back in the 90s as a 20-something-year-old. I was really fascinated by Seth and Richie and the action sequences and the cool lines. But this time, as I watched through it, I really got an appreciation for Harvey Keitel and the way he carried himself throughout that film and delivered his lines and the lines that they gave him. It was really powerful stuff. There was a soul to that picture in addition to the really cool, slick elements that we talked about. And I agree with Aaron 100%. That was spectacular to watch.
All right. Nothing left but to score them. So, Jason, you and I double back to Brainscan in 1994. On a scale of 1 to 10, how did you score the story?
Well, like I said, I came in with relatively low expectations on this. So the bar was set at like Jimmy Cricket height, but it landed on about a 7 to me. I thought the idea was original. I thought it had a lot of twists and it kept me engaged. Was it perfect? No, but it was well above average from your, standard horror slasher film, I thought, and deserves a 7.
And I'm right there with you with one notch higher. I have always really enjoyed the story of this, and I gave it an 8, and I fully admit there could be nostalgia points because, again, I saw this on the big screen with my best friend from high school sitting next to me, and to me, it's almost like what you said, Jason, was sort of the low expectations. This is one of those movies where you and your buddy just wander in because you're just like, let's go watch a movie tonight, right? So we went to the Main Post Theater on Fort Rucker, which is a one-screen theater. You watch what they're showing, and we didn't even know what they were showing. We just walked to the theater and went and saw it. So it was a 0 expectations, and we went in. We were both like, this was really good. So prepare for a little homerism and nostalgia for me on this one, but I gave it an 8. Let's go to From Dusk Till Dawn. Jason, 1 to 10.
I matched it with another 7. I don't think it was quite as creative as Brainscan, but it was more slickly put together and kind of professionally crafted, I thought. So I went with a 7 for that as well.
And we have our first match game. I also scored it a 7. I thought it was really solid. I just gave the 1 point bump to Brainscan because I thought it was, like you said, slightly more creative. Well, we got some tight scores on that one. So let's see what our guest has to say. Aaron Moss, 1 point to give. Which movie do you think had the better story, Brainscan or From Dusk Till Dawn?
Well, as I said, Quentin Tarantino's a genius to an extent. I mean, a lot of his stuff is very similar. There's dialogue very similar in a lot of his movies. So I'm going to give it to Brainwave, thinking G.I. Joe. Brainscan.
You can take him out of the Joe podcast, but you can't take the Joe podcast out of him.
Brainscan, I'm going to give that point to, because like you said, it's a little more original than From Dusk Till Dawn. While maybe he's saying too much right now, but Dusk Till Dawn may be a better put together movie. From Brainscan was, for what it was, I thought it was done excellent. So I'm going to give it to Brainscan.
Sounds good, man. That's the end of round 1.
You want to know what happens to an eyeball when it gets punctured?
So that brings us to round 2, and round 2 is the hero. And of course, that's my round because I'm a big hero, right? There we go. Well, how cool is the hero in Brainscan and From Dusk Till Dawn? How cool is the supporting cast? Do they do heroic things? Do they stand out above your Luke Skywalkers, your Indiana Jones, your James Bonds? Heck no, they don't. But how close do they come? Aaron, let's talk about the hero of Brainscan. I'm guessing that's Eddie Furlong.
Oh, was that the hero? I was trying to figure out who the hero that one was.
It's an interesting question because, we focus on him, but is Frank Langella the cop who's trying to solve everything? Is he the hero? I don't know. Aaron, it's your round to talk.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. No, that is a tough one because Eddie is the protagonist of the movie, but is he really the hero? That is a tough one because again, the cop was actually chasing him down and doing the legwork, and when he's not playing Skeletor, I had to bring that up. But I don't know who quite the hero is. I'm like you, Jared. I'm divided between the cop and the kid killing people. Eddie Furlong is the hero probably because, again, he is the main protagonist. He's the one that's trying to stop it. It's not like he's going along willingly. So, I'm going to say that Eddie is probably the hero of this story. And I thought for being dragged along and forced to do a lot of the stuff, I love the way he kept trying to fight it. Well, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Oh, okay, I did that. But his hero attempt was failed just by how powerful the villain is, I guess. But I'm going to say Eddie is the hero, and I thought he did a pretty good job at being the hero in that story.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting journey. He was, if hero is not the right word, surely he was the protagonist in the story. It was a very interesting journey. But anyway, it's not my turn. It's Jared's turn. Jared, what thoughts do you have?
I thought Eddie did a pretty good job. He catches a lot of flack for, being that teenage actor of the 90s, occasionally on Action Film Face Off, just on a whim. I'll put the very last sound clip will be Jason doing his impression of Eddie Furlong. acting in Terminator 2.
She's gonna blow him away.
Dun, 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 dun.
You might get to hear it again tonight.
I'm
Spoiler.
banking on it. I am banking on it. But you know what? When I look at it, I'm like, okay, what is he supposed to be in this movie? He's supposed to be an angsty teen, trying to escape reality, having a difficult time dealing with social pressures. He's trying to escape in video games and horror, and now he's caught in a horror video game. Is it real? Is it not real? And it brings up a lot of questions. I think he played it really well. Like, I don't have any beef about his performance in this movie at all. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a pretty decent score because for being what he needed to be in the film, I thought it was pretty good.
All right, fair enough. Let's switch it up. And Aaron, talk to us about From Dusk Till Dawn. Who are the heroes in that film, do you reckon? And what do you think?
Oh, I'm going to say the hero is probably Harvey Keitel's character and his family because, again, the Gecko brothers are the protagonists of the movie, but they're far from heroes.
They're terrible people.
Especially Quentin's character.
Richie,
thank you. Yes, Richie was a horrible, horrible person. But you kind of love the, lunkhead. But they're neither one of them were heroes. So, yeah, I would say the heroes in this would be Harvey Keitel's character, the preacher man, and his daughter and son.
I will say this for Seth, though. I thought Seth, although definitely not a hero, he definitely is one of the protagonists. He's a person that things keep happening to him, and Richie being one of them. Like, I thought that scene in the movie was very powerful after he kills that woman, and Seth just says, "What's wrong with you? Is this my fault? Is this my fault? Or do you think this is what I am?" That is just a really powerful scene because you see Richie, who's a big, tall, obviously strong and dangerous individual, just look like a child. Just look like a child being berated by a parent at that moment. And I thought that was a good scene, and a scene that I thought really made Seth stand out as a protagonist. But I'm going to turn it over to Jared and see what he thinks.
I feel like Jason could really relate to that scene.
I did, man. What's wrong with you?
For some reason, I could see that.
What is wrong with the little brother, right? Yeah, who could say? Well, you guys pretty much said it all. It's an interesting mix because no one's really heroic other than Jacob and his family, but they make a good ensemble. And when you add Fred Williamson to anything, I'm going to be pretty happy about it. He was on their team.
That's cool.
As well. Yeah, it's a really good ensemble. They play well off of each other. This may sound bad. I was about to say, well, nobody really stands out, but I almost mean it as a compliment. Like everybody kind of has their moments, and I guess the ultimate standout is George Clooney in the end, but it's a good balance of the protagonist team. So, yeah, another decent score coming our way.
All right. Well, I guess all that's left to do is score them then. So, Jared, what are you giving old Eddie Furlong in Brainscan?
This again may be shocking and maybe my nostalgia acting up, but I'm going to give him a solid 7. I thought the kid did a really good job for what he needed to be.
Well, I think your nostalgia points are just one to the right of my points. I gave him a 6. I thought he was okay. I'll give him a solidly okay. What do you think about From Dusk Till Dawn?
People might send in hate mail for me giving the same score, but I gave them a 7 as well. I thought their crew was real solid, especially, of course, Clooney. It's really his movie at the end of the day. But I had to ask myself, is he cooler than Roger Moore in A View to a Kill? No, but he's on par, so I gave him a 7.
Ironically, that was very much the same question that I asked myself, and I came up with the same conclusion. Gave him a 7 as well. So there's our next match game there.
2 match game.
All right. That just leaves it up to the sniper to decide which one do you feel more compelled by, the hero from Brainscan or the heroes from Dusk Till Dawn?
Well, again, another tough one. Part of me wants to give it to Edward Furlong just because he did such a great job, but I'm going to slightly tip towards Jacob and his family just because they were drawn into something they didn't want to be a part of. And even though they kind of sort of die for the most part, not all of them, but most of them, I think they did a damn good job. And with Jacob being an ex-pastor and his whole faith being tested, as it were, I'm going to give it to him slightly.
Sounds good. Sounds fair. Turn it back over to you, Jared.
Okay. That's going to take us to round 3.
You hang up on me again, I'll cut you like a fish.
Round 3 is the villain. How menacing or entertaining is your villain? How memorable is your villain? We will start with Brainscan from 1994. I have a funny feeling we're going to be talking about T. Ryder Smith's The Trickster. Yeah, maybe other villains you may want to throw in, but Jason, you get the lead on this round.
Yeah, my head went towards the Trickster. I thought he was interesting. Again, seemed to be trying to clone maybe a couple different characters. I looked a little bit Freddy Krueger-ish, a little bit the leprechaun dude, the little leprechaun dude. I thought there was a little bit of ham sprinkled in there. But I will say this, T. Ryder Smith, physically, he was really good. He was leaping about. He was making these weird gyrations, awkward poses throughout the film, really making you feel uncomfortable. I thought the one kind of drawback, and this has nothing to do with T. Ryder Smith, but kind of the limitations of the technology from the 90s, perhaps, was the actual, like when he gouges out his eyes and does those things. I found those not so much scary or even disgusting as kind of laughable, kind of comical. I don't know if that was the intent or not, but it's just one of those things that kind of, as I talked about before with the story, kind of takes you in and out of the plot a little bit. So there's a bit of a demerit there. But as far as his character and the way he played it, I thought he did a really solid job. And my score will reflect that, I think.
They can gouge out my eyes. They can run 10,000 volts through me. They can break my fingers one by one. But please, no country and Western music. Every man has his limits.
That's right. That is a great line.
Cracks me up every time. Over to you, Aaron. Thoughts on T. Ryder Smith and Brainscan? Or if you had, you could actually also maybe see the cop as a villain since he's the guy chasing it.
Right. So that's what I was going to suggest. Maybe the cop may be the villain because he's trying to stop our protagonist. But no, I've got to agree with the Weasel Skull on this. T. Ryder Smith I think he did a fantastic job. And yeah, I do see him kind of cribbing, if you will. He's some, Freddy Krueger, some other horror villains in there. But I thought he did it in a very entertaining way. And again, I just thought he brought that character to life, as it were. So I thought T. Ryder Smith did a fantastic job as the Trickster.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add that you guys didn't cover outright was he had a great physical presence, but especially after I read the trivia about how he was the voice of Igor, made me think of his voice work. He does a lot of voice work. He does a lot of talking in Eddie's head, and I love how he plays with his voice. It's very kind of put me in mind of Claude Rains from The Invisible Man, who carried that whole movie with his voice work. I thought T. Ryder Smith's voice work was really good.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears only slightly, going ahead 2 years into 1996 to talk about the massive amount of villainy that can be found from Dusk Till Dawn. And Jason, you have the lead.
Selma Hayek. That's all I got to say about that, man. Selma Hayek commands the stage. She commands that third act. And oh my goodness, just what a presence in that film. And then when she just leads that horde of vampires out, that is iconic. That's not too strong a word, I don't think. And then, like you talked about, there's also villainy. You could make the argument that Richie's kind of a villain.
Oh, he's totally a villain.
Yeah.
Kind of nothing.
Not that Seth is a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, but Richie is as much of an agent of chaos as those vampires. And Seth has been saddled with him like his whole life. And I think that that's kind of what helps Seth survive the night at the end of the movie. So anyway, I think I've rambled on enough. I'll let Aaron have a turn.
And I'm sure you feel very much a kinship with Seth. But
we've covered that already.
I know, but I just had to bring it up again.
Have I mentioned?
Yeah, I could see Jared being... Never mind. We're off of that now. And actually, I stopped listening when you mentioned Selma Hayek because I got sidetracked and I was pulling some video. Never mind. But no, yeah, Selma Hayek, yeah, very iconic. Her little snake dance there. And
Aaron.
I may get yelled at. People may not like us. I was...
Go on, Aaron.
Yes, Selma Hayek did a fantastic job. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of vampires. And while the effects were fantastic, Selma Hayek was beautiful. Did we mention Selma Hayek and her snake dance?
Not yet. No, this is the first time it's come up.
Okay. And yeah, Selma Hayek did a snake dance, which, I got to say about snakes and Selma Hayek, and I want to make some more comments there, but I'm sure you're trying to keep this as a family-friendly show, so I'll stop right there. But yeah, no, it was fantastic graphics, and there was a hordes of vampires. And yeah, as the Weasel Skull over there said, Richie was a bit of a villain himself, even though he was a protagonist in the movie. I've got to give a little bit to him because, yeah, he was a protagonist, but he was also the antagonist. So, but yeah, no, it's vampires. I mean,
they're vampires, Jerry.
All right, nothing left to do but to score them. Let's double back. Jason, Brainscan. T. Ryder Smith, the Trickster, 1 to 10.
Well, I had to give him a 7. I thought he was strongly in that category. Was he a perfect villain? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, but was he above average? Yes. Was he above what I was expecting? Heck yes. So 7 for me.
Match game number 3. I also gave him a 7. From Dusk Till Dawn, hordes of vampires led by the lovely Salma Hayek. You gave it 8.
I also gave it a 7. Aaron kind of said it. At the end of the night, it's just a bunch of vampires. But, you know, that entrance by Salma Hayek, you know. Did we mention Salma Hayek yet?
No, it might be the first time.
Salma Hayek.
Was Selma in this movie? I missed her.
So 7 for me there. I thought they were paired across the board.
I ended up actually giving From Dusk Till Dawn a 6 as far as villain goes, just because, like Aaron said, it's a lot of cannon fodder. I bumped it.
Did we mention Salma Hayek?
Because they were faceless cannon fodder, they started at a 4. And I got it
to 6.
I guess Helma got us to a 6 with a little help from Cheech. Cheech was kind of a memorable vampire as well. So again, because it was just a faceless horde, it was a 4, but she got it to a 6 for me. But yeah, I understand. We're close. We're still very close. And now we go to Aaron for his sniper bullet, which I feel like the name Salma Hayek's going to get mentioned in this, but let's find out. What do you got for the sniper bullet?
Well, see, if I was you, I'd pull it to a 6.5 because of Cheech, but I know you guys don't like halvesies, so
you got that right.
And just because it's expected of me, Salma Hayek, I want to give it to her just because of that. But as I said, at the end of the day, it's vampires versus the Trickster. And while, yeah, T. Ryder Smith may have not been excellent at the role, I thought he did a damn good job with what he had. And so I'm going to give it to the Trickster.
Awesome. We've got ourselves a tight little match going here, which I wasn't so sure was going to happen because From Dusk Till Dawn is a strong contestant. But hey, we've seen crazy things happen on this show, and that is the end of round 3.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Round 4 is all about the spectacle. How engaging is the film overall? We're talking stunts and effects, cinematography. I'm throwing in some soundtrack. I'm throwing in some film score, all that stuff. Throw it in a blender. What comes out tasting the best? And Aaron, I'll let you kick it off. What are your thoughts on the spectacle of Brainscan?
As far as spectacle, I think it was a little more low-key. Not low-key, but low-key. And in fact, that's also kind of what Trickster reminds me of is Loki, but that's another story entirely. We've already talked about him. But no, I thought the spectacle of it, I enjoyed it. Because like I said, as we talked about, as far as the story, there's a lot of twists and turns. Trickster did a lot of interesting, and while to some was laughable, maybe that's just more about Jason than anything else, but he did try to come across as a very, I don't want to say scary villain, but he did come across as a very supernaturally Freddy-esque villain, in my opinion. But yeah, the overall spectacle, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Between the two films on this one was difficult. These two categories in particular, because they're two types of spectacles, and I thought one was going to blow the other one away, but I don't think I'm going to give up too much when I thought through it. They were closer than I thought. But I'll let Jared expound on that a little bit. What were your thoughts on the spectacle of Brainscan, Jared?
Yeah, like you said, when we first figured out these two movies, I was like, oh man, From Dusk Till Dawn is going to destroy Brainscan. And I love Brainscan. And then I watched it, I was like, well, one of the things we talk about in Spectacle Round is, do I pick up my phone? Does my mind wander? And this has got to be probably the 5th or 6th time I've seen Brainscan, and I stayed engaged again. I did not pick up my phone. And I was just like, this movie there's something about it that just keeps your attention. Like, it's well-paced. It's well-paced. Another thing that I really like about Brainscan is I like the makeup job on T. Ryder Smith. I mean, it's 1994, so your visual effects and your CGIs are sketchy as hell. but they don't use them a lot in the film. They use them sparingly, which is something we've talked about many times on Action Film Face Off. Like if you're from the 90s or early 2000s, you better be sparing or the future is not going to be kind to you when they look back. And while this one did have some CGI that you watch, okay, it's a little CGI, it's a little wonky. It was sparing, and when they did use it, I was like, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me one bit. And finally, Jason, I have to talk about this. The freaking score by George S. Clinton. I hold in my hand the Brainscan soundtrack CD, and all I really need is track 11. It is the main theme of Brainscan as written by George S. Clinton. That haunting, perfect theme that plays throughout when it needs to. It's got a bunch of, those 90s sort of alt rock bands on there that you heard throughout the movie. But that George Clinton score is just stuck in my brain. I've always liked it. So it's really going to help out the spectacle of Brainscan. And stay tuned later in the show because I do think we're going to do a little giveaway and someone else is going to own this CD.
Oh, you're going to part with that CD? I can't believe it.
No, yeah. It's on my Plex server, so I have it digitally. And I thought, well, I'm not in the business of storing a lot of CDs, except, of course, for the James Bond soundtracks and all my Prince collection. But I figure I might give this one away on the show. So stay tuned for that.
Nice. All right. Well, that's going to move us over to From Dusk Till Dawn. And Aaron, take it away. What did you think about the spectacle?
Selma Hayek and the Snake Dance. I'm sorry. It was very much a huge, like I said earlier, I mean, it was a vampire film, but, and I'm not sure the budgets compared to Brainwave I keep saying Brainwave, Brainscan, but I thought the spectacle in this was fantastic. I mean, the special effects was awesome. The people turning into vampires and Selma Hayek when she was, as she turned into a vampire, as Kevin says over on the G.I. Joe show, hot. But, but yeah, no, it was very, it was action packed. It was very, the CGI on this, and I'm not sure how much was CGI and how much was special practical effects with Tom Savini involved. I'm sure it was very much practical effects heavy. Again, it was very well done. And a lot of times the practical effects back, like Jared was saying, in the 90s, the practical effects would hold up much more than the CGI because, the CGI can get kind of shaky in that area, whereas the practical effects, they've been doing it for decades, so they're familiar with it. So I thought this was done excellently, and I loved the spectacle of this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're going to have some interesting scores here because spectacle is just different between these two. Although, when it comes to music, Dark Knight by Tito and Tarantula was just fantastic. That's one of those soundtracks I proudly. Jared, what are your thoughts on From Dusk Till Dawn spectacle?
Largely going to echo what Aaron said. I think they did a lot of practical effects, which leans in its favor. They did limited CGI, and when they did use it, they used good effect. And once again, let me talk about the soundtrack CD. Unfortunately, I don't own that one anymore. It is on my Plex server, but I can't give it away on this episode. But what a great soundtrack. It's one of those ones you can pop in and play, and every tune on it it's cool and it's fun and it reminds you of the movie. It's an outstanding soundtrack. There's even some samples of the score on there as well. One of them is the track is called Sex Machine Attacks. And I mean, if that's not fun, I don't know what is. But yeah, it's another great CD. So, I mean, both these movies have a theme in that they leaned a lot into practical. They made best use of digital that they could, and they have great soundtracks. They're also all really well shot. They're just fun to watch, and they're engaging. Again, From Dusk Till Dawn, is that a pick up your phone kind of movie? Not really. It's kind of a roller coaster. So there's a theme.
Okay, now I know Delvin and Pat might be listening, and I was very polite, and you said it like 6 times, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. CD's nuts.
Good. That's a catch-all for the...
That's right. So, all right, guys, you've heard it. All right, now it's time to score and settle it once and for all. The spectacle between Brainscan versus From Dusk Till Dawn. We'll start with Brainscan. What score did you give the spectacle, Jared?
I'm almost second-guessing myself right now. Look at my score sheet, but I'll go with what I wrote down. I almost want to bump it up a little bit, but I wrote down a 7. I thought it had good, solid spectacle. And I almost want to give it an 8 because of the George Clinton soundtrack, and it had a lower budget than From Dusk Till Dawn did. and got a lot out of it. But I'll stick with what I wrote and say a 7.
Give it a 7.5.
What the hell?
You know what show you're on. Well, we're close again. I gave it a 6. I thought that the CGI kind of brought it down a bit for me, but I thought that the tension moments were really well done. And, I'm usually tone deaf in these movies, but the score did stand out to me on this one. So I'm picking up what you're putting down there, Jared. So 6 for me for spectacle from Brainscan.
Hey, real quick, when he killed the first guy, it was cutting his foot off, and he woke back up. But Jesus out of me.
Scared me too. I'm not gonna lie. Oh man. All right. Well, let's talk about From Dusk Till Dawn. What did you give the spectacle for that?
That one I did give an 8 to. I mean, it's a spectacle movie. It's got great action and great gun fights and great vampire effects. And you probably saw this, Jason, when you were doing research on the movie. The whole reason the vampires bleed green was because the ratings folks said if you make it red, we're going to make you X-rated because that's a lot of blood.
Right. Yeah.
So they made it green so they could get away with it. And it's like half the fun of it. So, yeah, I bumped that one up a little bit. I gave it an 8. I think it's a pretty strong spectacle film.
I didn't go quite that high. I again thought, it's a good spectacle. Is A View to a Kill? I don't know, man. That opening scene from A View to a Kill, the fire truck chase, the battle on the bridge, I thought it matched up. I gave it a 7. But we have a gentleman among us who can bump one of these films up. So, Brother Aaron, who are you giving your sniper bullet to? Brainscan or From Dusk Till Dawn?
As Jason said earlier, the spectacle they both are very much a spectacle movie, just different types. Though I was debating between the two, but I'm going to have to lean more towards From Dusk Till Dawn because Selma Hayek and St. Dance. But no,
that's correct answer.
But honestly, yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn, yeah, it was very much more of a roller coaster, while Brainscan was more of a thriller type, a little slower, if you will. Once they got to the bar and Selma started her dance and all hell got unleashed on them, it was, action packed and just very, very much quickly moving and till the end. So I'm going to give that 1.2 From Dusk Till Dawn. Delvin's at home like,
no, that's fair enough. Yeah, one is definitely a fast move spectacle epic, and the other is a slow burn, but a delightfully slow burn. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for my round. I'm going to just sit over here patiently and wait for Jared to hand it back to me as he goes into best action scene.
Jason's right. It's time to get to round 5.
They mostly come at night. Mostly.
Round 5 is the best action scene, and I do tend to hand it back to Jason. He usually breaks these movies down and identifies what the key action scenes or horror scenes for Horror Film Face Off are. Jason, lay it on me for Brainscan. What did you come up with?
I don't want to bias this, but I think these are 3 of the best that I've ever come up with.
Oh, my goodness. We'll let Aaron be the judge of that.
So here we go. Number 1, I'm going to open it up with the scene, the first murder scene, if you will, the one we were talking about where he cuts off the foot. It says his first time into the game. I called that one, I Need Your Foot, Your Cat, and Your Bicycle.
There's a Terminator theme coming, isn't there?
It's Terminator 2. Yeah. Starring Edward Furlong. All right. Number 2. This is the one, I picked this one where he was trying to cover his tracks, and then it leads to the manhunt through the woods. I called that one, Hey, teacher, leave that kid alone. All in all, it's just another brick on your skull.
You tied it all together with the well done.
You liking these? All right. Number 3 is his final kill, his would-be girlfriend, where Frank Langella catches him in the act, points the gun at him, and says, murderer, and shoots him. I called that one, He's going to blow me away.
Yes! Oh, I feel so much better now that that's
I promised it I delivered.
All right, Jason, which of those 3 action scenes was your favorite?
I like the second one, the manhunt through the woods. Hey, teacher, leave that kid alone. All in all, it's just another brick on your skull. I thought that was really intense, and you talked about it. That was one of those moments, although there wasn't vampire heads exploding everywhere and mayhem and chaos, I was leaning forward on my couch like, oh my gosh, this is intense. When that dog sniffs him out again, I was just like, oh, he is so caught. Like we said, different type of action scene, but I thought it was really, really good.
Would you say you were on the seat of your seat?
I was on the seat of my seat. I really was.
Aaron, of those 3 action scenes that Jason laid out, which one did you like best?
I'm going to have to agree with Jason on this. The teacher leaves alone, bashing your skull in, all that good stuff, brick on the wall, brick in the skull. I agree. You weren't quite sure what was going to happen. It was very intense. Are they going to catch him? Is he going to get away? Then the teacher, he gets a brick in the skull or 2 or 3, whatever. No, I thought it was done very well. And it's like Jason said, it's not vampires being shot all over you, but it was very well done.
I'm going to be a little different. I've always liked the very first foray into the video game where he kills a dude and takes the foot. Like I spilled the beans earlier when he just sawing that foot off. And the old dude sits back up. Oh, man. Like I said, it's probably seen this movie 5 times, and I still was like, oh. I forgot it was coming. Quality jump scare. All right, with that, let's go to From Dusk Till Dawn, Jason. There's probably like 47 action scenes in that movie. I mean, how did you had to kind of glom them up. You know what you're doing. What do you got?
I bunched them into 4. There's the one at the very beginning, the shootout in the liquor store. I call that one clean up on all the aisles.
That's my favorite one so far.
But, from that point on, there's not a lot of action scenes until you get to the bar.
Yeah.
And then you have 3 in quick succession. The first, when the vampires make their first appearance and start attacking all the patrons of the bar. And I called that one, is that a stake in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? Then after they fight all of those folks, then there's that bit of calm, and then the dead people start resurrecting as vampires, and they have to fight those guys, including Richie. I called that one Vampire Leftovers.
Nice.
And then after they do all that, they get sieged by all the bats, and then the bats get in, and then they have to make their big battle breakout. That was kind of the, to quote Delvin, culmination of the vampire attacks. And I called that one, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes.
All right.
So those are the 4 that I kind of broke it down. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? Did I miss anything, you think?
No, it sounds good to me. My only follow-up question is, which one was your favorite?
I'm going to go with the last one, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. That was the most frantic, chaotic. There's a lot of emotional stuff when Jacob turns and his son has to kill him, then his son gets killed, and then the daughter has to kill the brother, and it's just all goes crazy in that one. So I like that one.
I'm going to totally agree with you on that, and then we'll ask Aaron which of the 4 he liked best.
To me, it was a toss-up between the first one and the last one.
Yeah, that first one is a good.
Yeah, and it also helps that with the name Jason gave it. So
that was hilarious.
So I'm going for the first one just because, again, I think Jason's name kind of helped push it over the edge. But just judging on its own merits, yeah, that and the 4th one were very, very close. I mean, different types of scenes, but they were both very. But I'm going to give it to the first one.
All right, awesome. So all we got to do is a little bit of scoring. Jason, you liked the Chase Through the Woods. I liked the first kill from Brainscan. What did you score Chase Through the Woods?
I thought Chase Through the Woods was really well done. I gave it a 7.
Match game number 4 for the episode. I gave my kill a 7 too. To be honest with you, like as far as slasher movies go and stuff, I was kind of at a 6 with it. But as I've mentioned a couple times, that jump scare totally got me on my 5th viewing. I was like, that's got to be worth the point. So I bumped it up to a 7. All right, From Dusk Till Dawn, we both picked sort of the final battle. Jason, what'd you like it to the tune of?
I thought it was as good as, but I can't say better than that Chase Through the Woods of Brainscan. I gave it a 7 as well.
Oh, my goodness. Well, then we're going to finish this up with another match game. The theme of this episode is just very different types of fill in the blank. but are both good.
Yes.
So yeah, I gave it a 7 as well. I give every action scene in that movie a 7. I think they're all really, I mean, it's Robert Rodriguez. He's not going to disappoint you on the action scene.
Yeah, 7's his baseline.
Yeah, I mean, when Fred Williamson was picking up dudes and spiking them on table legs, man, I can't get enough of that. That was awesome. All right, Aaron, your last bullet. Which movie do you think had better action scenes? I think this is fairly evident, but I will let you. Hey, we've been surprised a lot of this episode, so what do you got?
Especially you remind me about, slamming people into the table legs and killing them. That was fantastic. But I'm going to give it to the Chase through the Woods and the brick in the principal's head and all that, because again, I've said this before, and for all the Dusk Till Dawn and Quentin Tarantino fans out there, don't send me any hate mail or go find me some more. But as I said, at the end of the day, it's vampires. Fantastic movie. Don't get me wrong. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. Like I said, I didn't need to rewatch it because I've seen it so many times, but I think that I'm going to have to give it to Brainscan because, yeah, it was a bit of a different to me. I mean, vampires you see all the time. No matter how well they're done, they're still vampires. That beginning scene from Dusk Till Dawn, the cleanup on all the aisles, that was a fantastic little gun battle, the exploding station and all that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give my point to the Chase of the Woods and the principal's head and the brick in the head and all that.
Wow. I'm surprised, but I think that's kind of awesome. And that's the end of our official round. Well, we got a little something left over, and I'll hand it over to Jason.
I just can't take no pleasure in killing.
Yeah, well, this is round 6. It's the deduction round. It's the reduction for the ridiculous. Is there anything in either of these films that we want to take points off for? And Jared, I'll start with you. Anything you want to take off from either of the films?
I'm certain there's plenty of teenage ridiculousness and Brainscan, but it all held together so well. I'm not going to take any points away from it. It is a fun movie, I will say, to rewatch, because at the very beginning, when they're sort of showing establishing shots of the town with that really great score over it, if you watch carefully enough, you'll see the dog running through some of those scenes with the foot in his mouth. So it's like a complete Mobius strip of a movie where it starts with the dog at the foot of his mouth and ends with the dog with the foot in his mouth. That's something you probably only catch on a rewatch, though. But no deduction there for Brainscan. Did you have one before I move over to From Dusk Till Dawn?
No, when I first started watching it, and I did catch the dog with the foot in his mouth. Well, at first I was trying to figure out what he had in his mouth. I couldn't quite make it out, but then I figured it out as the film progressed. I was like, oh, that was the foot. Yeah, in his mouth. But no, I contemplated it because I was really uncomfortable with even like the fact that Eddie Furlong's character would even like find any entertainment out of playing a serial killer. To me, that's not something I would really be interested in doing. But when I thought about his character and what he's been through and everything and how he escapes, it kind of made sense. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but
no, it does.
I was just like, I'm really uncomfortable about him doing this. It just doesn't seem right. I think I'm going to take a point off. But as the film progressed and I learned more about his character, I was like, you know what? It makes a little more sense. So,
Similarly, I was like, should I take a point off for him being a weird perv video and the girl next door? But then like she was taking his picture too, so I was like, well, I guess it's okay.
Yes, mutual. Balances out.
Couple of weirdos.
Weird. Is it weird that I found neither scene weird?
No, that's all in your police record anyway. So
yeah, that's right. So that was a long-winded way of me saying no. I'm not taking any points off.
Yeah, it was probably the longest no we've ever.
Yeah, that was a long no.
I do have a deduction for Dusk Till Dawn.
What?
I know. And when I tell you what it is, you're going to say what even louder. It is the crotch gun from Sex Machine. What bugs me about it is, and this is totally because I was going to say military authenticity, but it's more like I worked at a gun store. It's the fact that that's just not practical. Like the chambers don't match up with the barrel. So like, there's just no way it could work. And I know that's like the dumbest
You saw
thing
it work in the movie. Jared.
I know he shot it in the movie. Like I know it's the dumbest thing to get caught because they know it's just there for like to be funny. Like, haha, it's a gun that looks like a penis with testicles.
Objection, Your Honor. Objection. You did not take this off because they showed it in the case in Desperado. They showed the cross
forgot
gun
that
in
it was
case
in
of
the
the Desperado. You didn't take it off that.
I guess maybe because it didn't get used. Like I couldn't quite tell how it worked.
Okay,
This
that's
one,
fair.
I can clearly see how it's designed. I'm like, well, the chambers don't match up with the barrel. It makes no sense.
I just thought like the recoil from that would be
Oh,
like
my goodness,
getting
yes.
kicked in the nuts.
No,
Like,
thank you.
I'm not firing
That goes
thing.
on. That all goes into it. I'm like, I get that it's played for laughs, but it always just kind of bugs me that like it's not functional. And even if it would be, it'd be very painful to shoot.
From what I hear, some people enjoy that. I am not one of them, but
and you could keep this in or leave it out, but I've actually met Thompson at a convention and he had that piece with him on display. I thought that was pretty cool.
But no deductions for you.
No, I don't think I'll deduct anything from either film.
Then that is the end of our scoring rounds. Now, don't you worry if you haven't been keeping up with that math at home, folks. We do that for you here at Action Film Face Off. And let's just recap a few things. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 match games. So if you guessed 5 out of 10 match games, you won. So congratulations to yourself. And looking at our sniper gave 3 of his 5 points to Brainscan and 2 to From Dusk Till Dawn. And let me give you a little hint, people. That's going to make all the difference in tonight's scoring. Because with just Jason and I's scores alone, these movies came out tied. So you've probably figured out who won already. But let me do the official reveal. The winner of this episode of Horror Film Face Off with a score of 72 to 71 is Brainscan.
Well, I am shocked, folks, but congratulations to Brainscan. Now let's head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for our next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from
Choose your destiny.
2006, and I will bring a film from
Choose your destiny.
1987. And what will those films be? Well, we're going to tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening. And we're talking to you, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode to find out. Until then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrecht, and you can find me on social media at Weasel Skull on Twitter or at Jason Albrecht on Facebook and Instagram.
And you can find me, Jared Albrecht, the yard sale artist, a.k.a. Death Probe.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
At Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It is all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my wares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Aaron, pimp yourself, sir.
You can find me in front of the local judge for taking pictures of the next door neighbor girl. And also you can find me at headcastnetwork.com, where the home for all of my shows. And I'm also on Facebook. I've got my 2 Facebook groups, facebook.com/group/GI Joe and facebook.com/Headcast Network. And you can also find me on Facebook under Aaron Head Moss if you want to yell at me personally for upsetting the apple cart.
I hear that's a good place for that. And you know what? I made a little bit of a promise earlier about doing a giveaway. If you would like the soundtrack CD to Brainscan, which I'm going to give away on this episode, all you got to do, here's a fun one, Jason. We've never done this before. If you want this soundtrack CD, all you need to do is dial 707-532-5269 on your phone and leave us a voicemail about what you think of Brainscan or From Dusk Till Dawn or both, or any of your thoughts about Action Film Face-Off matchups of the past. 707-532-5269. If you leave us a voicemail, you are in the running for the CD. But if you do that, listen carefully, if you do that, don't forget to tell us who you are on the voicemail and how we can get in touch with you. Now, I will edit that out, so the whole world won't know who you are and how to get in touch with you if you don't want them to. I'll edit that out when we play your voicemail on the show. But just tell us who you are and how to get in touch with you, and we will get you that.
I think I'm going to enter. I'm going to call and just replay this entire episode.
Like, I have a 90-minute voicemail from Aaron. That's how to win it. All right. With that, be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on your podcatcher of choice. or you can listen directly at www.longboxcrusade.com, or, of course, over on our Longbox Crusade YouTube channel. And if you'd like to send us a question or a comment, you can do that by hitting us up on social media at Longbox Crusade on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and again, YouTube. Or on Twitter, we actually have our own account there called AFFO Podcast. You can hit us up there as well. And one more time, that phone number is 707-532-5269. I want to thank Ezra Gallo, who called in when I put out the call for this episode. You heard his message at the beginning of this episode with his thoughts on these two movies. If you want to be cool like Ezra, 707-532-5269 or 707-532-LBOX. Pick up the phone. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next time, keep your silver bullets handy
and your garlic fresh.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it. These are the fun. Act like I've been through puberty. These are the fine folks.
Yeah. Oh, another upset.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I'm here for, just to upset the cart. And
oh my goodness. Everybody who's about to send hate mail to Aaron, all I got to say is this: everybody be cool. You be cool.
Be cool.
You can send that hate mail to head@headspeaks.com.
Wow, I love Brainscan, but I thought it had zero chance in hell. Jason could tell you when we were picking these movies out, I was like, him and Han, I was like, I want to bring Brainscan, but it's going to get its ass kicked from Dusk Till Dawn.
I thought so at first too, until I rewatched it.
It's such a good movie.
I thought when I saw that 1 star on there, I was like, what are you doing?
And again, same way last year. You thought you had an upset, and it was very close last year because Hal was a very surprisingly good movie.
Absolutely was.
Well, that's why we watch them. I guess that brings it to me. I probably should bring the script back up.
And Jared still can't believe it.
I can't. I'm pleasantly shocked, but wow. This episode is yep, Freddy is the devil. All right. We're hot tonight.
Halloween one always throws us off.
It is. All right, here we go.
She's gonna blow him away.
Dun, 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 dun.
What a way to spend Halloween.